You can't feel like you'll be happier when you get what you want. You're happy right now. You're happy right now. That is the key. Being happy right now. When you put out a desire for what you want. And when you think of what you want, you're not feeling the lack of it or feeling, when I get it, then I'll be happy. No, I'm happy right now. And when I get it, I'll be the same as I am right now. Happy, feeling good. It's not going to be more happy. It's not I'm going to be miserable until I get it, and you'll never get it. So this exercise or drill is very significant. So the simplest way to fixate on a goal is just fixate on a dollar amount. And that sweet spot that we're looking for there is a dollar amount big enough to get you excited, but small enough that you actually believe you can hit it. And I'm just looking for that sweet spot. Because at that point, that person may not even be a member. They could be just an affiliate. So maybe they've gone through your wish is your command, or maybe not. So they're at a limited space. So I have to keep it incredibly simplified at that point. Any other questions on know what you want and know why you want it? Yes. Question is, okay, I want money. So the question is, do I think of a dollar amount or certain stocks in my portfolio going up at a certain price? Good question. And I'll give you the answer. The answer is you can do both. You can do one or the other, or you can do both. However, when it comes to money, I will give you a suggestion. And this is good for everybody. When it comes to money, we think we have figured out where our money's going to come from. And I can attest to you from experience and assure you that where you think your money's going to come from is probably not where a lot of your money is going to come from. You may get a lot of money from the venture you're in, what you're focusing on, and that's fine. But why limit it to that? If you just focus on an amount of money, maybe all your stocks go right down the toilet, but some other venture comes in and you make twice as much. Do you care? No. I knew you were going to say no. It doesn't matter where the money comes from, right? So if you want money, focus on a certain dollar amount. And that's very clearly defined in the Law of Success in 16 Lessons and Think and Grow Rich. It's always a specific dollar amount, not the method you think it's gonna happen. So when it's money specifically. So know what you want, know why you want it. Next, if you want to send out a broadcast to get what you want, you need to know what you want. You can be specific, general, or have a feeling. But you must know why you want it. Once you've done that, then you have to ideally prepare your mind. Let me explain this. Preparing your mind means clear your mind. Now, I'm using the word mind here, not brain. The mind is where you see pictures. If I say, for example, think of a cat. Everyone right now think of a cat. Think of a cat. A cat. A cat. How many people here, by a show of hands, got a picture in their mind of a cat? Okay. Was that picture of the cat in your brain or your mind? It won't fit in your brain. The cat can't be in your brain. Okay. There's no cats in anybody's brains here. Okay. But the picture of the cat was in your mind, which is not physically part of the brain. It's a separate entity with mass, but it's not part of the brain. This is how mind readers work. They're actually seeing the pictures in your mind because they're all open right there. So I can actually see them. So if you're telling me a story and the pictures are one thing and you're telling me something else, I know you're not telling me the truth. I remember one person was doing, actually L. Ron Hubbard was doing an auditing session. It was on one of the audios. And this is before they had what's called an e-meter and things, so they couldn't really see where the energy was. So he's asking this person a question about an incident that happened earlier in their life. And the person is not under hypnosis or anything, they're just recalling it by memory. And so he said, okay, recall it from start to finish. And so the person does, he goes, do it again. And the person does, but this time more detail comes out. He goes, okay, start at the beginning and tell me again. And this time even more detail comes out. It's like, oh yeah, and there was an apple pie on the windowsill. And then he told it again. And the third time, more detail comes out. Oh, and I remember now the drapes, they were actually white like with doilies on them. I remember that specifically. Okay, tell me again. And this went on and on and on. And every time there was a little more detail. But the particular problem this person had was none of the things that he was describing was fixing the problems. So finally, Hubbard, who could see the pictures, said, well, tell me about the dog. And he goes, oh yeah, there was a dog there. It was kind of like, look, we're not going to be here all night. Let me just help you. All right, tell me about the dog. Oh yeah, the dog. And then he went on, and because he could see the pictures. So the mind is where your pictures are. So preparing your mind means clear your mind. Now this is where it gets interesting. If you've seen movies like The Da Vinci Code or different movies where rituals go on, and in these rituals, whether it's a movie based on fact or fiction, in these rituals, two things happen a lot in rituals. One, there's some sex act. Like in the Da Vinci Code, I think it was, or one of those movies by Dan Brown, there was some sex act that was being involved. There was some ritual going on which involved a sex act, a man and a woman having intercourse. And in some rituals, there's a killing of some animal. And actually, this is not fantasy. In the Jewish tradition, in the temple, the priests would kill animals and drain the blood, and it's all outlined in that tradition. There was always a killing of some animal. So generally there's either some killing of a real physical animal in these rituals or some act of sexuality. And why would that be historically true at these high-level secret societies or even religions like the Jewish religion? Why would that be true? Here's the answer. The answer is when you clear your mind and you're at a place where there's complete stillness in your mind and complete quiet, and you actually have a moment where you're in total 100% bliss. You're at bliss at the moment you're at right now. Total bliss. Everything else is gone. You have complete clarity. And at that point, you can put out a broadcast that is so pure. There's nothing holding it back. There's no interference. None whatsoever. This is why throughout history, and I'm not saying that I'm going to give you some instructions on how to do rituals, including to include sex acts or killing of animals. I'm giving you a history lesson. It's not what we do here, but I'm giving you a history lesson. The history lesson is this is why they're being used. So in a sex act, when a man and a woman are involved and engaged in intercourse and there is an orgasm, at that moment of orgasm, everything else in your thought process is gone. There's nothing else you're thinking about. Zero. You're in absolutely present time, and you're in one of the most blissful states for that moment at that point. Everything else becomes like irrelevant and gone, and nothing else matters. Everything else is quiet. Your mind actually becomes open and quiet. And at that moment, you become completely open to seeing anything off your radar screen. Like everything just opens up. It's like it's all there now. And not can you just see it, but you can feel and sense what's off your radar screen at that moment. And you can feel and sense complete stillness. And what I mean by that is there is no other thoughts. You are completely open. It's like your spiritual essence actually is purely released for that nanosecond with no junk. And then it goes right back in. So there's a window there where you can actually put something out. There are other things that attempt to do similar. In transcendental meditation, you have siddha meditation, where you get to a certain point where you get into that spot via meditation. There are other techniques or other traditions that do similar. At the same time, when there is death or killing of a life, you can get into that same point. Because when you see a living, breathing mammal, not a fish, a mammal, and it's right there looking at you in the eyes, and you kill it, there is a sense that is unlike any sensation you could ever feel. And I'm not suggesting that you go out there and kill any animal to try this out. I'm not suggesting that. I'm giving you a history lesson. But this is why these traditions have been used. And this is why it went to the extreme in various cultures. The Mayans, various cultures, killed humans, human sacrifice. That's why it went to that extreme. So preparing your mind and clearing your mind, you don't have to go to those, what we call extremes. But you have to kind of be aware of what you're attempting to do here. By preparing your mind, basically what you're trying to do is you want to bring emotion into the picture. I'm going to show you exactly how to do this, which generally should include pleasure or pain. And why am I going to include pain here? Because you have lots of opportunities in your life when things don't go what way you think they should, where you will experience emotional pain. Just imagine that a loved one that you love, maybe a brother, a sister, or an aunt or uncle, right now, this weekend, right here, this moment, when we break, you check your cell phone, there's a message, and the message says, I have terrible news. So-and-so was just murdered. An intruder came into the house and killed him or her. How would you feel? You'd have a horrible emotion, a very painful emotion, and rightly so. At that moment of pain, there's a window that is opened up, and you have an amazing opportunity to change your world, because that is an opportunity. This is called Phoenix rising from ashes. It doesn't mean the pain's going to go away. It isn't. But you have a chance to plant a seed into the universe to make things better than you could ever imagine. This is why some people say he takes lemons and makes lemonade. No matter what happens bad, you can turn it into a major advantage. Let me give you an example. Some of you know that I have a $37 million fine imposed on me by the lunatic judge in Chicago. I appealed the ruling, and the appeals court vacated the $37 million fine and said that the judge was loony. He didn't have any evidence in the record to support it, and he has to redo this, get more evidence, and come up with something that's rational and reasonable. The judge didn't get any more evidence. He got zero additional evidence. He just basically rewrote the same order and sent it back to the appeals court. Well, obviously, I'm going to get that overturned because it was the same thing he did the first time. He didn't follow the appeals court instructions. Not one instruction was followed. I'm obviously going to get this thing overturned. Well, the ruling just came back, and it was affirmed. They didn't overturn it at all. They waited a year and a half, which was amazing, and they wrote a small little 12-page opinion, and they affirmed this. Now, this, for anybody, would probably be terrible or bad news. And I was actually with some friends, some very wealthy friends, when I got the phone call and I got the news. And when I got the news, it certainly wasn't news that I was expecting. It wasn't what I was putting out there. It was the exact opposite. So I was, for a nanosecond, a little bit shocked. Like, huh? Like somebody slapped me in the face. Like, huh? What are you talking about? A little shell-shocked. And I immediately took advantage of that moment to put out my right intention, to put out my broadcast. Make a long story short, this just happened recently. I've already gotten calls now from various organizations who are going to be writing amicus briefs, which are what's called briefs that are friends of the court. And we're going to appeal it now to the entire Seventh Circuit, which means every judge on the Seventh Circuit is going to be hearing my story. Now, that's significant because as this continues to go forward, every judge now, every one of them is going to know the story. If they don't take the case, or if they affirm it again, then I have a very good chance of going to the Supreme Court. Why is that good? Because if I'm one of the 1 out of 500 cases that gets accepted by the Supreme Court, this will become national and worldwide news. And the amount of publicity that I will get, win, lose, or draw, it doesn't matter. You couldn't buy that kind of worldwide publicity. So you can't lose. The point is, you can't lose. You can't ever lose. All right, let's take a 15-minute break. 15-minute break.